WMNN-TV 56, New York.
The following program is not made possible by the Ford Foundation, the National Endowment for the Arts, and certainly not by people like you.
Do it again.
Tonight on DVTV 2000, the return of the man, the myth, the legend, the prophetic, the profound, the postulatory, the poly-postulatory, Bob Dobbs, live and uncensored in the Channel 56 Broadcast Center right now on DVTV 2000.
Live from the studios of Manhattan Neighborhood Networks. This is DVTV 2000. And now, your host for DVTV 2000, Richard Speziale.
Hi, this is DVTV 2000. My guest tonight, well, he's a crackpot or a visionary, depending on who you speak to. He's the inspiration behind the movie The Matrix, also the inspiration behind the Church of the Subgenius. Time magazine said of him, Bob Dobbs is such a fraud, he doesn't even exist. Yet, he's worked with Marshall McLuhan, he's performed with Frank Zappa, and he even met Adolf Hitler. We welcome back to the Channel 56 Broadcast Center, the exponential Bob Dobbs.
Thank you,
Bob.
Rich. Great to be back.
Great to meet you back here in the 56 Broadcast Center. You're all ready.
We're on air.
You were on air, yes, finally.
Hit me with a question.
Hit you with the question. Well, I mean, the question I got most asked after your last appearance on this program was, is this guy for real? So I'll ask you, are you for real?
No.
Okay. There's the definitive answer. Okay.
I'm an exponent of quadrophenia, so there's going to have to be 4 answers. Yes, was, won't, and will be. 5 to cover the
5 to cover the question.
Cover that question. Quadrophenia, that's my expertise.
Okay. Okay. Let's talk about, this program is supposed to be about the nature of the medium of television. And as everybody knows, that's changing. But you have some insights into what has happened with television over the past 50 years or so. Yeah. Over the past 50 years or so. What has television been up to now to society?
It's been the cloned ESP phase 1.
Okay.
Because television is an extension of the living drama of cognition for people collectively.
Mm-hmm.
Then when the satellite computer and the chip came along, that specialized the particular general effect of TV, which was a biological breakthrough, as Teilhard de Chardin knew.
Mm-hmm. Who is Chardin?
He is the father of the New Age, the Jesuit priest, the paleontologist, who began the Aquarian Age by talking about the new sphere, N-O-O-S.
Okay. I'm nodding my head like I know what you're talking about, but here's a question I do know. Just before we went on the air, we were talking about John Logie Baird, the actual inventor of television.
Yes.
So what do you know about Baird? You said something, there was a fire in the Crystal Palace in England. What do you know about that? What can you tell us about that?
First of all, page 349 of Finninger's Wake, James Joyce calls and refers to Baird and television as the Baird board bombardment screen.
Okay.
He understood the information overload syndrome. And that section, it's in italics on page 349 of Finninger's Wake, indicates all the parts of TV as Baird invented it.
Right.
Not the electronic of Farnsworth in the States.
Purely mechanical, spinning wheels and scanning discs.
But as usual, the intelligence agencies, British intelligence, knew the importance of this technology, knew it was going to alter people. They understood the medium was the message. And so as Germany rose in the 30s, there was a battle over what to do with television, how to use it. So they set up Baird in the Crystal Palace in the early 30s. But then Germany is starting to spy on it. So they created the fire at Crystal Palace to destroy the TV stuff and make it look like it was a public accident. But Britain did it on purpose to hide any future TV research in the later 30s.
Right.
Fooled the Germans.
And fooled the Germans.
Yeah.
Now, at the same time, Britain was actively pushing TV research because they knew there was going to be a war, and they knew that television factories could make radar, correct?
That's right, but the important thing is they always looked, being literate people, looked
Right.
at the content. They knew this was propagandistic. It was only James Joyce who knew that this form would alter consciousness so that the content was irrelevant. And that's the stuff that McLuhan stood on the shoulders of.
Okay.
And then I stood on the shoulders of that to create the amazing percept of cloning ESP. None of the agencies understood that.
Do they now?
Yes, but it's a little late.
It's a little late,
That's
yeah.
why Wired magazine celebrates McLuhan. They're celebrating what they didn't know in time.
What they didn't
But
know.
they hope the
What they
people
didn't
who
know
don't
back
know
then.
will believe it's new stuff. And I'm here to tell you it ain't new stuff anymore.
It ain't new stuff.
No.
So that's what that we've talked about what TV has been in the past, right? Now everybody knows we're on the cusp of a big change, and what is it about to become? What are the profound effects of going from a broadcast medium to a more narrowcast, hard-wired medium?
It means the future wears your face.
Okay.
The digital
My
reality-
face meaning everybody's.
This is digital TV, right?
Close enough, yeah.
Let's begin with the electric phase is telegraph to television. That's a tribal imposition, a tribal mandate on everybody.
Okay.
The beginning of the tribal meme.
The telegraph.
Yeah, telegraph to television.
Okay.
Collective environment, nobody can get outside of it. When you bring in the transistor radio, you begin to have electronic autonomy. The
Right.
computer in the early parts of pre-chip technology allow the person to run around and have their own separate space, beginning to get free from the tribal effect of electric media. You get the electronic. So what is the digital phase?
Yes.
The digital phase is the electric consciousness extended through television and the electronic phase coming alive and then going inside you and making you feel that you're free from it and you're everywhere to be mobile.
Right.
That's the Android meme.
Yeah, but you're not so free as people with cell phones and portable modems, et cetera, find out. You're not so free. You've got messages to check. You have calls that you missed. You
Bills
have
to pay.
Bills to
When
pay,
are we going to
yeah.
have to stop paying bills? That's what we really want.
Yeah.
How are we going to get there? Software is not going to give us that.
No.
It's going to give us mobility, but you still got to run back and pay your bills.
I have a feeling you have the answer to that question.
Oh, yes, cold fusion, as we
Cold
said last
fusion.
time.
Okay.
Let's
The
go to
perpetual
another
motion.
topic. We did that.
Okay.
Let's go back to another topic. Cold
Well,
fusion.
let me look at my sheet here.
Okay.
Okay. Now, what about the dark side of television, which is surveillance cameras everywhere? Yeah, they're rehearsing in the next studio. What about the dark side, which is surveillance cameras, which are everywhere now, and they're so small I could be wearing one and you wouldn't know it?
That's where the Android meme is going to make you feel you're free from it. Nobody can track everything now with the internet.
Right.
No big brother can monitor this.
Right.
And this seems to be liberating. This is what Wired magazine ran on this ecstasy. And this
Nobody
celebration.
can track everything, but certain individuals can be tracked if there's a will.
They aren't
and a
paying their bills.
Yeah.
You can be eliminated, but that is all hidden. It's
Okay.
like the great movie TV show Wild Palms talks
Right.
about, shows people living in an ecstatic state of electric autonomy and people being killed on the sides because they didn't pay their bills, and you're not concerned about it. How do you
Right.
know if it's real or not? It could be a bunch of robotoids. But the thing is the surveillance is tied to paying the bills. The surveillance still applies even though you have lots of autonomy and lots of free mobility,
Right.
and also you can even drop out and be in touch. So that surveillance has no reality unless you keep the bill paying going. So how are we going to get out of the bill paying? Because that's where Big Brother came from 1840.
Right.
When they locked down the trust and the economic structure of visual space, which is money,
Right.
when capital gets locked in and becomes a permanent environment, again,
What happened in 1840 now? How did it get locked down? What was
that's when the telegraph comes in.
Telegraph.
You've got a global village shrunk, and that's when the banking becomes a monopoly behind the oligarchic trusts of Europe.
electronic transfer of money.
That's right. Even though
And bills.
That's right.
Okay.
Well, they meet. The mafias meet in the same room, and it's George Orwell's 3 parts of the global empire already
Right.
happening in the 19th century.
Where were you? And I know in my generation, 1984 was required reading. Now, where were you when you first, and you're a little older than me, where were you when you first read 1984? What were your impressions?
I was one of the people who assigned George Orwell the task to write the book. It was a
You assigned.
Yes, I was part of the
Okay.
network that gave the funding and the opportunity for George Orwell to publish this book, which was considered controversial, but we wanted out as a meme of paranoia.
Now, who were the other? One of the people. Who were the other people?
That I did this with?
Yes.
Um,
Can you talk about it?
I'll say the name Vogel.
Vogel.
Go look it up. You may never find anything, but Vogel is one of the families involved.
Okay.
Actually, we talked about that.
We
You
talked
noticed
about
Vogel,
because
haven't you?
there's Vogels.
A lot of
in,
Vogels
like,
here in New York.
well, in every set of credits, New York and Hollywood, there's always a Vogel
Listen
somewhere.
to that. Note that, folks.
Okay.
I didn't bring that up because of that, but I forgot.
But yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I did mention the Vogels. Okay. So, and the reason that, and I didn't know this, the reason that you assign, how do you approach Orwell?
How do I approach that?
How did you approach him? How did you tell him, this is a commission, this is a...
We didn't tell him anything. We just allowed it to get published.
Oh, you allowed it to get published. Oh, okay.
That's all we had to do.
Oh, I see.
mean, there's a lot of stuff that's written that doesn't get published. And Orwell was a controversial guy, famous for controversy. He was alienated. He was hibernating up in Scotland or someplace.
So you knew about the book, you were aware of the book, and you said, this must get published.
Yes, because we wanted people to think that 1984, the situation of 1900 was coming to be, to throw them off to what time it is. As Frank Zappa asked, the only thing he wanted to know was what time it was. That's the key question. And time had disappeared, so the last reference is 1984, the timeless society. That happened in 1900, so we want people to be off for the whole 20th century, not understanding what's going on. It was all mind control. It was all ESP and meme control. The big picture is what we controlled. The big picture.
Do you think, are you pleased that it is required reading? And do you think it's a useful guide for today?
No, I defected, as you know.
Okay.
I defected, and I realized when I was assigned to monitor Marshall McLuhan and suppress him, because he understood the real story when his journal came out in 1953, as time went on through the late 50s and my father started to see certain problems in the Secret Council 10 that I worked for, we realized it was going to disappear. It was going to go kaput. I was on my own. I was going to let go whether they existed or not. So then I started working with McLuhan, helped promote him so that we could change the meme of 1984. And it's McLuhan, if you read him closely, who points out that 1984 happened in 1900. McLuhan's the only one who says that. So with my encouragement, he became a bigger meme than Orwell.
Now you're referring to 1900. What significantly happened in 1900?
That is the beginning of the telegraph newspaper global village, and you're bringing in Marconi technology. Tesla is causing a lot of problems, and we realize that we're moving into a utopian form of electric infinite energy, and we don't want that. The people I represent don't want that to happen. Actually, it couldn't have happened because we have this money historical situation that could not come in until radio in the 20s collapsed.
Give me a time cue, somebody.
Radio collapsed in 1929, collapsed the economy, and that's when money as private property, which was who I was working for from 1900 to 1930, disappeared, and the money became public property. But you still had money as a medium of strength and importance.
I might have asked you this question last time. I have a feeling I'll get a different answer. You said that newspapers had caused the First World War. Radio had caused the Second World War. What will the Internet bring? And we only have about 30 seconds left.
The Internet caused the war of the myth of the 90s.
The myth of the 90s.
It created an idea that there was a decade, but it was only a startup decade. The Internet is a startup medium. Nothing gets completed. Nothing gets finished. Anybody in the wired world, in the Internet world, is burned out because they hop from one incomplete project to another. It's a decade that can't happen. And we will remain in that eternal frustration and limbo until we bring in cold fusion.
I have a feeling we'll complete this program in the next 16 minutes, but right now we've got to go away for a break. We're talking with Bob Dobbs, the android meme. We're trying to keep up with him. We'll be right back after this.
Rosita está muy contenta porque va a pasear.
¡Ya veo!
¡Yo quiero ir adelante!
Tú, Rosita, tienes que ir en el asiento de atrás con Gaby.
¿En la parte de atrás?
Los niños siempre se sientan atrás, con los cinturones de seguridad abrochados.
Y los más pequeños viajan en asientos de seguridad.
¿Un asiento especial?
Sí. Recuerden, los niños viajan en el asiento de atrás.
Y todos se abrochan al cinturón de seguridad.
George, watch the goslings swim. And they swam, and they swam.
From birth to age 3 are the most important years in a child's brain development. the time that defines who they become.
So little baby.
On the big highway of life, there's only one safe place for kids. Backseat, baby. The front seat's not the place to drop out. Don't want that big old bag to pop out. Backseat, baby. Put that booties in the backseat. Backseat, baby. Have that some kids you never meet. I'm here to remind you to put them behind you. Backseat, baby. Ow! Let me hear it. Backseat, baby. You stay alive even when I drive.
What if you had to choose between a flower and an elephant? What would you choose? What if you had to decide between a 100-year-old tree and a 1,000,000-year-old beach? Would you choose between drinking clean water or breathing clean air? Now you can choose all these things. Earthshare, the world's leading environmental groups working together. It's one choice we can all live with.
Hi there, we're back with DBTV 2000, and I am up on the ladder so I can keep track of this guy. My guest tonight is Bob Dobbs, the android meme. He's roaming around the studio somewhere. Is he down there? Bob, you've left me up in the lurch, and I feel like there's a lot of viewers that have been left up in the lurch. So let's move on to, this is an election year, and a lot of people are about to get polled, and when I hear that, I think, well, they ought to bend over. But what do you think of opinion polls?
Advertising and polling is the beginning of the icon forming for the cloned ESP.
Icon forming.
That's right.
Cloned ESP, yes.
In other words,
I'll come down so you can see me.
Yes, a little further.
Okay.
Right there, that's good, right there. I don't want
Okay.
you all the way down. You're not allowed
Okay.
to come down until we can get you grounded.
Okay.
The point is that advertising was the collective money standard in software. It was backed up by the purse strings, but since money become private property, then advertising is the gold standard. The Nielsen ratings is the big brother. It's the standard of what things are, so we can keep in a left hemisphere mode of knowing what's better than something else, which creates prestige and taste in feudal society. All right, so advertising is very important. But
I'm going to bring you around here so we're a little more in the light because they're having trouble seeing us.
He really didn't come down yet.
I haven't come down yet,
Yeah, but because of the medium ruling,
Yes.
we have to pretend we're not.
it's a tyrant.
So the thing is that as the society gets fragmented
Right.
through the electronic and the digital phase, then that central scrutinizer, as Frank Zappa calls it, which has to form the centralizing icon known as advertising and polls, gets more scattered and nervous, and then has to do it faster. And the polling now is every 6 hours to find out if we can make an icon on some little issue.
Right.
But to create a massive modern pyramid sculpture called what it is right now, what the population feels.
Okay,
All right.
which brings me to another
That's
point.
the android meme.
Yes, the big mirror, or the false mirror, if
Big
you will.
frame.
The big frame.
Yeah.
Now, brings me to another point, which I'm glad you reminded me of, and that is something I call the uni story. And we've had a few of them ever since OJ. First there was OJ, then there was Monica, then it was Y2K briefly, more recently it was Elion, and right now we're in between unistories, aren't we? But the fact that there's a big story, so big, all other news items have to relate to this, and this is the only story that's relevant.
Because electronic digital speed up always flips into slow down, a centralizing sense of time, which is not really there. Because most of the population is in such a condition of anarchy in communicatory terms.
Right.
They're fragmented, they're communicating, they're actually doing well without any...
So this is, so they're giving society something to talk about, in other words.
Right. Slow it down so they can talk longer because it's more desperate to maintain the centralized standard.
Okay.
So in the cold fusion, you put a certain amount of energy on, but more energy comes out. So it's the same principle, doing more and more with less and less.
Right.
So the android meme is miming the cold fusion effect, which hasn't arrived yet, by doing more and more with less and less. One story, stretch it for 6 months.
Why is cold fusion being suppressed?
because it disrupts everything in terms of what we understand in terms of the big picture. Historically, it upsets the Western consciousness, which is used to a big frame that can sort of notice things in fragmented bits and keep a hierarchy. But cold fusion wipes out the hierarchy supported by the purse strings.
How will cold fusion come to liberate us, to make us not have to pay rent, to make us self-sufficient?
That depends on me and my wife.
Okay.
How successful we communicate this vision, how successful people get behind it, and how much people ignore everything else and pretend they're members of a cult. The Bob cult.
Pretend they're members.
Because when you're talking under a meme, it doesn't really care, since it's doing phatic communication. It's just saying, how you doing? I'm doing okay. How are you? No details. We just phatic with the pulsars and work behind the scenes. As that crumbles, then we end up, Bob is standing there in center plate with the home run, and everybody's pretending to groove with me. But I'm not going to impose a dictatorship, because cold fusion doesn't create a dictatorship. It's the software meme that can only keep the illusion of some kind of centralized control. So we always pretend we're stupid in relation to them and that we're Bobites, but that ain't really what we're doing. And I understand that, and you understand that.
Now, I imagine when cold fusion comes about, things like the oil companies, basically the structure, the economic structure of the United States and most of the world will crumble. And I imagine there's a lot of people who don't want that to happen.
Right. Only because the normal people live in the rearview mirror. Nobody's going to give up whatever job they have.
Right.
And so it'll be apocalyptic, but it'll be a slow, eroding apocalypse, beginning in the third world countries of Russia, China, and Africa first, because it can't happen here in America. Too much of a solidified establishment. But as the rest of the world depends on it, as they get in worse trouble due to the fact they've got all this information and no cornflakes, which is obvious now, then they will be eligible for this new energy as it's brought in from Japan. Immediately they'll implement it. And as it erodes around the world, the old oil consciousness, the oil guys will jump in and put their money behind it and then use it to sell it in America, make a bundle. But then that money is obsolete over a 20-year period as you bring in the structure, which is not based on oil. You don't have to pay your bills every day. You pay once every 10 years.
This reminds me of the story that you always hear about. This guy invented a pill that you can drop into a gallon of water and get a gallon of gas. And it was suppressed by all the oil companies. Similar story? Is that something that just...
Not relevant. On to the next question.
Okay, on to the next question. Government suppression. Are there aliens in Area 51? Have the powers that be talked with the powers that be in other places? And are you allowed to talk about it?
Yes, I'm the expert on the aliens.
Okay.
The ambassadors for the intergalactic civilizations and the universe is teeming with life are from the Booties constellation. Look in the back of Frank Zappa's album, One Size Fits All. He's got the Booties highlighted. It's the one with the star Arcturus in it. The Bootians are the ones set up to be the ambassadors, and they're very ecologically establishing contact with us. They're going to leave a device on one of our satellites, space stations, and we'll come to it, and it'll say, press here and talk. And that's what we'll do. But meanwhile, they're being seen all over the world with family videotapes, and they're making the crop circles. I stand by that. Over the next 30 years, this will be proven. They're from the Bootians. And that's who's doing it. There's other civilizations, but they're the ones assigned to do a very benign, proper ecological ambassadorship. That's the good news.
If they're so benign, why are they, and this may be the bad news, if they're so benign, why are they cooperating with the powers that be?
They aren't cooperating. The powers that be can't control them. They don't understand them. And so the only thing they can do is offer a negative land image via X-Files, Bill Cooper, all this paranoia, these abductions. Not happening. There's only been 5 people abducted in the last 50 years.
Okay, only 5.
Right. The first 2 were Barney and Betty Hill. They were real. They had something to offer. They had knowledge that scientists didn't have till 10 years later. The other 3 haven't told anybody. So what's going on? The android meme has invaded consciousness, and those old icons of the universe, the cosmos, it collapses in people's big frame, and they merge with it, they make love to it, they have babies with it. All this is a collapse of old imagery that people have been living in. The universe, that cosmic starscape, is tiny inside the digital world. It's inside our shoebox now. So where is the mind in that situation?
Now, there's a lot of stuff that you can't talk about and you've touched upon, and we should mention, and I know we can't get this graphic up at this point, but we should mention there is a website called positone.com, POSI-TONE.com. You click on the Bob icon, and we find out, there it is, we found out a lot of information about subjects that you have touched upon.
And my biography and my diaries.
And your
all
biography
there.
and your diaries.
The secret history of the 20th century is laid right there at that website. It's called Android Memes and Iconomy. And you've read some of it.
I've read some of it, yes. And it jumps around quite a bit.
It has to.
It has to.
It has to, because that's the way we've experienced the 20th century.
Okay.
There hasn't been in linearity. You can actually take them and put them in order. If you know the dates are there, you can reassemble them.
There, yeah.
You can put them in order again. But I want to show you, it's like a newspaper page.
Right.
You're jumping around. And who wants to stay in one image? New York or Seattle or Los Angeles all the time. You got to move around, take them back from one decade to another. It's the decade dance, or decadence.
Decadence, yes.
Mosaic of decadence.
What is, we've only got like 30 seconds left, what is the most significant...
5 minutes according to that. We don't go by that?
No, we don't go by that clock.
Right.
No, we can't.
It's
analog.
Okay, what's the significance?
What is the most significant thing that happened in the last century, in the 20th century? Was it the moon landing? Was it the invention of LSD? Was it the first Ramones album? What was it?
It was the birth of every human being that ever lived in the 20th century, because everybo's part of the story. How's that for a humanistic democratic concept?
Well, that's a very democratic answer.
That's for first nature. In second nature, what's the most important thing?
Yes.
I would say television, but more so cold fusion. The television, third, microchip, second, cold fusion, first.
Okay.
And then my wife's medical modality, plus, amazing, for
Which
21st century.
Your wife is?
Connie Dobbs.
Connie Dobbs. Yeah. And we will be hearing about your medical modality, and you're actually going to try and market this.
That's right.
How soon in the future?
Can't tell.
Can't tell.
No, how can you tell? We don't know what time it is. I'm still here, 78 years old. Look at me. Who's going to believe that? That's an issue right there.
Nobody does, but...
There it is. Time will tell.
Time will only tell.
Time ain't around anymore. As Finnegan's Wake showed us.
Right.
There's no time.
If anybody has any questions, they can write to you at purple@ingress.com, right? We won't have the graphic up because it's much too late.
Purple.
Purple.
Purple@ingress.com.
Do you wear shorts from like May until...
Yes.
Yes.
I love the freedom. I mean, New York has good weather. You walk around. I don't have to show up at any regular employer. I can feel relaxed. I don't have to wash the laundry much. It's fucking great.
Yeah. What? Now, what kind of...
I ain't trying to impress anybody.
No. Yeah. No, of course not.
Yeah, I don't have to.
That's why you're on Manhattan Neighborhood Networks all this week. I want to give my thanks to Miss Breezy Wimbledon, Mark on camera 2, Lorraine on camera 3, Joey on camera 1. Thank you all for watching. This is Rich Speziale with Bob Dobbs, and he's showing his age now. Good night and good luck. So, Bob, tell me about these aliens. How many of these aliens have you met?
I've never met them.
Okay, but you're aware of them.
But my family history and the oligarchs have records which I announced in Mesquite, Nevada last summer, which tape you can get. Get in touch with me. You can get my 3-hour seminar. I explain the family documents. But
and
nobody...
we're off the air so you can relax.